I want to bring you some insights regarding the cause and the symptoms. It is concerning the impacts, such as the inability to breathe, such as having a cough with no phlegm. Rather odd for pneumonia, wouldn't you say? And things like suddenly falling over with no other signs of sickness. All of these things can be related to something completely different. Let's explore this little reported fact about what has been happening in CH. Did you know that this country went live with fully functional FIVEG? Here you can see the announcement from a Chinese website all the way back from 2018 in April that WUHAN, we all know that city by now, don't we, will be a pilot city. Here it says a large-scale FIVEG network engineering program will be piloted in Wuhan, live by fall 2019. Furthermore, their hospitals have been supercharged with this most of all, FIVEG or 60 gigahertz frequencies. Yes, here you can see Huawei, CH biggest telecom provider, is attempting to show their philanthropy by donating FIVEG equipment to that. Everybody heard about the hospital that went up in 6 days, right? Did you hear that they donated the equipment to it before they even were functioning? Now, what does it do? For those of you who don't already know, in 2015, over 200 scientists from 41 different countries already communicated their alarm to the United Nations, to the UN, and to the WHO. By 2019, 26,000 scientists had signed the petition calling for a moratorium, an urgent and complete halt to the FIVEG rollout due to its having been proven, quote, harmful for humans and the environment. FIVEG, specifically the 60 gigahertz frequency that is being used in CH right now, and by the way, which is slated to be released all across America, has very specific biological impacts that very few people realize. And some I've been able to piece together and will be presenting to you here in this video. How these impacts from this radiation can perfectly mimic the pandemic that everyone is up in arms about. While you will see truly viral, non-stop news feeds pushing out the fear, the virus coverage. And while it could be true, like I posted in my last video of leaked footage, that CH is underreporting these numbers, what they are not telling you, and they will not tell you, are legitimate reports on the road of exactly what symptoms these people are experiencing, because then you too can start to put it together. But also, you're not going to see any correlation of the timing of this outbreak to the release of the 60 gigahertz frequency. My point is, we are being educated on the forms of science that they want us to consider valid, while keeping our education limited on those forms of science that may expose what they're trying to accomplish. The impacts of 60 gigahertz are not widely published information, but here's what I can tell you. And it's in part, ironically, from the promotional material of the big telecom companies themselves. Here it says, 60 gigahertz has a very distinct impact on none other than oxygen itself. Yes, here are the articles released by companies who are touting the benefits of 60 gigahertz. They openly admit that 60 gigahertz is absorbable by oxygen. Possibly, when you mess with the absorption of oxygen in the human body, let me give you one guess which organ is going to suffer first. The way that the 60 gigahertz impacts oxygen is this. Oxygen, the atom, is O. Oxygen, the molecule, is O2. Two atoms together. Now, these two atoms creating the oxygen molecule are sharing some electrons. 60 gigahertz causes the electrons surrounding oxygen molecules to spin. 60 gigahertz, even at lower powers, is causing the electrons on oxygen molecules to spin. And as you might imagine, changes to the spin frequencies on oxygen electrons when you breathe in. The reason that breathing air into your lungs gets oxygen into your blood, and therefore in important places like your brain, is because the oxygen entering into your lungs gets picked up by a very important iron-containing protein called hemoglobin in your blood. But the unfortunate impact of oxygen molecules spinning the electrons is that it makes the hemoglobin unable to uptake the oxygen and get it to the rest of your body. What they are calling the CV is acute respiratory disease. And while you can't believe 100% anything coming out of China, it seems to me there were enough leaks of people suddenly falling over in the streets that the CH government doesn't want people talking about or sharing, with no other apparent illness. Guys, listen, CV is not new, okay? It's a cold, it's a flu. That's why it says on the side of hand sanitizers like Purell and the side of a can of Lysol that it kills it. It's common enough to be listed on the most common disinfectants. But now the CH government is admitting that people can have virtually no symptoms and suddenly fall over. If your lungs are not able to put oxygen in your blood, how long would it take you to fall over? Not long, okay? Not long. What about those quarantine cruise ships? They weren't even in the city of WHAN. That's very true. And I have some very relevant news for you on that topic. These ships that were quarantined just so happened to be from the Diamond Princess line of cruise ships. So let's check out this PR release from Princess Cruises. Continuing Princess Cruises comeback new promise, a commitment focused on investing more than $450 million across the global fleet. Now here they go into some of these very expensive upgrades that they have added. Well, one of the upgrades that they go into great detail explaining on their website with high-end marketing videos showing exactly how it works is their network connectivity. Here's from their press release. Carnival Corporation and Regal Princess announces they will, quote, establish a new industry apex in connectivity capabilities. It says, using its newly developed connectivity service, MedallionNet, and working with SES networks, powered by our O3B fleet of MEO or medium Earth orbit satellites. Yes, they are admitting to working with SES, and although they're calling it Wi-Fi, that is a misnomer considering that the company seems to be using millimeter waves. Are these passengers getting sick from a VIRUS? That, by the way, they are admitting that the people on the ship haven't been tested for, or are they getting sick from millimeter wave frequencies being beamed at them even while they sit trapped in quarantine? So what about all those other cities? Other cities that people have left CH4 and still got their CV virus that I found that supposedly have this, this has happened to so far. They are people who are already openly advertising that they have FIVEG themselves. States the exact site of the facility is not being disclosed, but information in Chinese research journals suggests it was in the Huazhong region. Oh, just so happens to include Wuhan. This was an interesting paper released by one specific hospital in WHAN, and this doctor with his YouTube channel, he was going over them in great detail. You know, a lot of people have a lot of attention on this, but unfortunately, they're not looking at it through the eyes of the FIVEG that I'm sharing with you now, and so a lot of things to him don't make sense, but when you look at it knowing this, it all fits together rather perfectly. Of the people admitted and studied in this particular hospital, they got real specific about the symptoms, and so they broke it down from outpatient to those admitted in ICU. And of the people admitted into intensive care, it says this: over 60% of people had acute respiratory distress, respiratory failure. Symptoms included shortness of breath, rapid breathing, and bluish skin tone. Can that happen with lack of oxygen? Yeah. Pneumonia also causes respiratory distress and an inability to get proper oxygen. That's true. However, don't we all know by now that pneumonia causes your lungs to do one basic thing? Fill with fluid, fill with phlegm. Now, much of what I'm finding regarding this CV is pointing to people who don't actually have fluid in their lungs at all, but they have dry coughs with no phlegm. How often do people with pneumonia have seizures? But we have seen tons of leaked footage of people with exactly that. Of course, people talk about fevers in the media, but they also say they can have all these problems without the fever. I mean, how many times have you had flu without the fever? But along with this theory I'm sharing, wouldn't it make sense, given the possibility of a frequency WEAPON? How do we know if a mild fever can't also be a result?
諗啊！檢查緊咧，佢入邊咧會。